It was pretty much my dream job. I was a freshman in college, don't know kind of how that happened, but it was incredible. Hey y'all, so if you're new here, my name is Victoria. I just wanted to first off introduce myself. I'm a college student in Boston, and I also work in social media communications. And these are my top 3 tips for how to land your dream internship. So first off, just a little bit of background in terms of the internships that I've had and what I've learned from them and why I think they're so valuable for you to find as a college student. So my first internship, I worked as a communications fellow on a political campaign, and it was pretty much my dream job. I was a freshman in college, don't know kind of how that happened, but it was incredible. And through that first internship, I feel like I gained so many skills that I just would not have even thought about had I not gotten that job. And it kind of put me on a path of really knowing what I wanted to do. And it really solidified the fact that I wanted to work in communications and I wanted to work in digital media and social media. And landing that first internship actually put me on a path to then be able to get paid and work jobs that were also in my chosen field. It led me to be able to freelance. It led me to a number of different things, which at 20 years old let me get paid to do exactly the work that I wanted to be doing. I got paid to be creative, I got paid to write, I got paid to design, and it's just a really incredible feeling knowing that at such a young age I'm able to do the work that I want to do and get paid for it. But that wasn't always the case. I did have to go through a number of unpaid internships and a lot of just like putting in a lot of hours and a lot of work. But through those experiences and then through being able to adequately communicate those experiences to other employers, I did kind of end up on a really good career path. So I just wanted to share my top 3 tips on how to even find internships, how to make sure that all of your materials are in a good place. Number 1 tip is to use your resources. And what that means is I think a lot of college students don't fully realize all of the career resources that are available to them. Most colleges actually have a career development center or a career growth center or some kind of career center where it's literally people's full-time jobs to help you find your dream internship or your dream job. So look it up online, book an appointment. There are probably a number of people that can help you kind of either prep for a job interview, they can help you look over your resume, they can help you find internships. They are even able to do like career counseling and just sit down with you and talk about like what you see yourself doing in the future. A second really important resource is professors and even friends. My first internship I actually landed by just approaching a professor and saying, hey, I'm really interested in working in politics. Do you know anyone that's hiring right now? And she kind of worked with me to apply to a bunch of different places. She kind of put in a good word for me at the campaign that I ended up working at. And I think the biggest thing is knowing that like people in your life want to help you, but you just have to be willing to reach out for that help. And even your friends as well. Like I have so many friends that have worked, because that's the other thing is like a friend is always going to be very, very honest with you about what the experience of working somewhere was like. So I've had so many friends recommend places to me and kind of help put in words for me at different places. And that's a really wonderful way to get that kind of firsthand experience of what it's like to work in a certain place. So my second tip is to make sure that your professional materials are always in order and always ready to go, because you never know when your dream job is going to open up. So with that is making sure that you have master copies of everything. I think a lot of people have master copies of their resumes that they go in and edit, but it's also really important to make sure that you have a master copy of your cover letter, and you should be writing separate resumes and cover letters for each job. But having kind of a master copy that you always pull from is really, really helpful and kind of eases the pressure of having to write a new cover letter every time. So for me, things that I keep in my master copy are just like my personal story and like why I'm passionate about the field that I want to work in. And for the most part, if you really love the field that you want to work in, that shouldn't change all too much. And then also, obviously, my skill set. So at the bottom of your resume, or at the bottom of your cover letter, when you kind of talk about why you're qualified to do the job that you're applying for, that skill set should be pretty similar no matter where you go. So having kind of all of those things in a master copy of a cover letter, and then being able to import those and kind of fill in the blanks on why you're interested in that specific iteration of a role, or why you're interested in that specific company, then you can kind of fill in those gaps. But having a master cover letter takes out so much of the guesswork and takes out so much of the pressure of having to write a new one every time. Then with your resume, so big thing for me that has helped me just like workshop my resume and make sure that my resume is in a good place is being very, very specific with my language. So I wanted to pull an example from my actual resume and show you guys how I have made the language more specific and how I've refined it. This is from this first internship that I keep talking about, and one of the things that I did is that I took the lead on a lot of video content for this campaign. So on my first copy of my resume, it says, film and edit videos related to campaign content. And then on my second version, it says, staffed events and collected video content through one-on-one interviews. And then as a second bullet point, it says, produced audio and video content using Adobe Premiere Pro and Audition. So while the first version works, the second version gives them a lot more insight into specific skills that I have, such as specifically capturing events and staffing events, and then also one-on-one interviews. It shows interpersonal communication skills. And then in the second bullet point, just that little extra specificity of the software that I used shows that I have that kind of technical skill. And another helpful thing that I have found in making sure that your resume copy is very precise and shows the best parts of you is actually comparing it to the job description. So literally pulling up like split screen your resume here, job description here, and making sure that keywords that are listed in the job description are also somewhere in your resume copy. So whether that be like specific types of analytical thinking or specific types of design experience or whatever it may be for your specific job, making sure that those keywords are listed somewhere in your resume copy. And if that means that you have to go in every time you apply to a job and change up the wording in the resume copy just slightly, then maybe that's the case. And just doing those extra like 5 or 10 minutes of work can help you land your dream job. And another point on drafting your resume, particularly if this is your first time applying for internships, is don't be scared of what you don't know. Don't be scared of the experience that you don't have. You're a student, you're young. People don't expect you to know everything or expect you to have all of the work experience in the world. So if you're looking at your resume and you're like, this looks really empty, totally fine. There are so many different ways that you can fill up your resume with valuable content that is not going to be making the font absurdly big or changing the size of the periods or all those crazy things that people do to make their papers and resumes look longer. That's not what we're doing here. There's a way to fill in those gaps with really valuable things that are going to make employers see where you see yourself in the future and what you are capable of, even if you haven't had that work experience. So one of the things to do is to fill out a profile section, which is basically just a little paragraph saying, this is my ideal job, this is what I would love to do, this is why I want to work in this industry. And that can go really far because it shows people that while you may not have the work experience, you understand the industry. It shows that you are driven and that you know where you want to go and what you want to do, and it shows that you're passionate. And a lot of times, like, passion is something that you can't teach anyone. So if you have that to show for yourself, that can fill in those gaps where the work experience is not there. And then a second thing to do is, instead of, if your work experience is a little shorter, you can actually add another section that is relevant coursework. Because people know that you're a student, people know that you go to school and you spend a lot of time and money going to school. So if you don't have that work experience, that is something else that you can show for yourself, and that you have been discussing a lot of the concepts and that you understand things from a conceptual point of view in your classwork. And I think a lot of people shy away from putting class projects in their resumes or talking about like school related things, but that's 100% valuable, and that's knowledge that you should own. So I think having just relevant coursework and kind of listing putting the class that you took and then the different concepts that you learned that are related are really, really helpful. You have things that you can kind of pull from, and making sure that these things are also constantly updated and constantly showing the best version of yourself. But I think it's just those little things that sometimes not everyone thinks about, and just making sure that all of the copy is really, really clean and precise and showing the best parts of you. My third tip is, particularly if this is one of your first times applying to internships, is to apply smaller and apply broader. Now those may sound like contradicting terms, but what I mean is apply to smaller companies because you're more likely to get more responsibility and learn a lot more than if you were to work for some like big name brand that everybody knows. And yes, I think it sounds really cool, and like it might sound really cool to say that you're working for this big brand on like your Facebook announcement or whatever, but in reality, particularly if it's your first internship, you are going to gain so much more experience working for somewhere smaller that has a smaller staff, because since they have a smaller staff, they will be able to give you more responsibility as an intern. So my first internship, I worked for just a super grassroots campaign, and I learned so much that I didn't even think was like possible for me to learn. I like did not come in being design savvy or even computer savvy at all. I literally pretty much knew like how to write clean copy and how to edit videos, and that was all I knew walking into that first internship. But because I was on a team of like 5 people, I learned how to do graphic design. I became so much more of a better copywriter and so much better at just like getting a really clear message across. I learned so much more about like email marketing and so many different things that I never would have even considered if I hadn't worked for somewhere smaller first and been given those extra responsibilities. What I mean by apply broader is then apply to kind of broader roles, because same kind of thing, they will allow you to gain a lot more experience, and they're also a little bit less competitive than if you're applying for something really, really niche. So say like me, you want to work in communications. Sometimes it's better to apply to kind of a broader communications internship than to apply to a very specific print production internship or print design, just because that's so niche and you need such a specific set of skills for that. And particularly if that's what you want to do long term, absolutely go for it. But it might mean that you have to take something that's slightly different and slightly broader at first to kind of help you gain those skills that you need to get to that point. I think also, particularly if it's your first internship, taking something broader and kind of getting a broader view of the industry that you want to work in gives you more of an idea if that's actually what you want to do, and then helps you kind of narrow down the more that you go on your career. But that is it. Those are my top 3 tips for how to land your dream internship in college. And stay tuned, because there will be so much more professionalism content coming. I want to do a whole video on like job interviews and phone interviews, which is in person, and networking, and just a lot of different things related to professionalism. So stay tuned.